So here I am, speaking about the no-code at DevConf for developers. And for me, it's not that obvious, because when you apply with such a topic about the no-code for the conference for developers, you might receive a response like this. This is an actual response I got from one of the organizers of a different conference for developers. I will read it out loud. That we have analyzed your application, but it's interesting, but it doesn't fit the theme of the conference, because this conference is for real programmers and no-code is not the real programming. So, fortunately, it's not the case of DevConf. I'm really happy to be here. And I will start with that case, because I think, and not only me, that no-code suffers from a branding problem. And this is a post from a friend of mine. Tomasz runs a no-code agency in the United States, and he got the point, right? Because developers think that no-code is lacking real possibilities. And on the other hand, the no-code funders, the new wave of no-code funders, thinks that the no-code will replace coding in total, that you don't even need any programmers in the future. But I believe that the more accurate term is that the no-code is not the replacement. It's more like an abstracted development, or maybe like a graphical user interface for programming. And for the purpose of this presentation, I will use this definition, that no-code is a visual abstraction of software development. It's not a replacement, not an alternative. And my name is Tom, and I'm a no-code developer for 3 years, almost 3 years. But my history in IT lasts much longer. I started in 2000, so over 20 years ago, I founded my first company. I was creating websites for clients, doing everything, right? From graphic design, HTML, PHP, JavaScript, Perl, everything. And then the company was growing into something bigger. Then we called it the Internet Software House, because we've been creating applications that were working in the internet environment. Then we've built even something bigger, merging 3 companies into the Unity Group, where we became a really big company with over 250 people. We had over 200 developers on board in 2012. But I wanted something different. So after selling my shares in 2016, I moved to the startup business. So creating strings from scratch, creating startups, building new ventures. And in 2016, we founded with a group of friends a company that was related to AI. And in 2016, no one was talking about the AI. It wasn't that popular as today. And we had a vision of creating an AI assistant the B2B assistant, that you can communicate with your voice and he will respond to you, just like ChatGPT does today. And this is actually funny, because that days I was also doing a lot of speeches about AI, about the future, and that this type of conversational interfaces, this type of AI agents will be the future of software. And it's happening right now. And right now I'm speaking the same about the no-code, right? So I'm over 40 years old, so I do remember when, the interaction with computers was through the command line interface, so the first type of interfaces. But then we've moved to something what is called the WIMP interface, so window icon menu pointer, so the graphical user interface. So, and at the beginning it was just a layer on top of command line interface, but then it became prettier on Macintosh, on Amiga, and the famous Windows, which we all love, right? So, by the way, who is using Windows except of me? Are you there? Oh, perfect. So, not Apple Mafia. So instead of writing lines of comments, we started using something what is called a visual abstraction in terms of interacting with computers. And actually, I see that the same is happening with programming, with development, right? So it all started with the mainframe computers and the scientists that were able to program these computers. And anyone have an idea what's this? Yeah, good. Punch cards, right? Not many people remember this, but this was the way to program the computers, to put the holes into the punch cards, and those were the commands. But then, fortunately, the computers evolved. There were computers in every home, and we started program then using programming languages, right? assembler, but now who uses the assembler, especially in web apps? No one. But I think this is more familiar, right, than modern editor like Visual Studio with add-ons, with add-ons that make programming really, really convenient. And I believe, that the next step in this evolution will be the graphical user interface for the programming. And this is why I came here, to convince you to at least try some of these tools, because they are really cool and the possibilities are endless. So no code as the graphical user of programming. And the interesting thing is that, no code is not a new term. For many, many years, people were trying to create tools that will be for the people to program without programming, with just mouse and drag and drop. And look what I found in the Computer Chronicles on the YouTube. This is a video from 1990 when they were presenting Windows 3.11. And the guy
I can draw a piece of the program. This is a button that you could use for navigation. I can give this button a script, and that is a program in Toolbook. Now, I could draw the entire application. That would take quite a few minutes, and we don't have the time right now. Let me show you what I've done to give you a quick overview of running a Toolbook application, how you would create such a thing as a front end. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to import some ASCII text.
Okay.
This is being imported into Toolbook. Toolbook is automatically creating record fields, which are database fields. Here they are.
Yeah, so this magic happened over 30 years ago, right? And now the no-code and low-code landscape is much more mature, and I must say that it's huge, right? It has a lot of tools. This is only a fraction of these, right? Website builders, app builders, mobile app builders, web app builders, workflow automation, productivity, spreadsheets. I mean, no code is everywhere. But for the purpose of this presentation, I will focus on the two categories. So the front-end no-code tools and back-end no-code tools. And as we have only 40 minutes, I will focus on the tools that I personally use for my app development, starting from the full-stack development platform, no-code full-stack development platform called Bubble. And Bubble is on the market for over 10 years now, and I think that it's the most mature and most advanced no-code app builder on the market. It has some statistics, like over 2 million applications created, over 5,000 integrations and plugins, and nearly 4 million developers, Bubble developers worldwide. So a lot of people doing things in Bubble, and Bubble editor looks like this, right? So this is the Bubble, the Bubble interface, and for you, I've took the Bubble tabs, design workflows, data styles, plugins, and settings, because they are the main sections of the Bubble editors, and I've put the names of the layers of the application to this. So Bubble design is our front end, Bubble workflow is our back end. Then we have a database, user interface elements, API and connectors, and server setup and logs, and all is gathered in one editor that has all these tools in one. More than that, we also have in Bubble, we also have a branching. We have version control, so a couple of developers can work together on different branches, merge this, and then ultimately go live. So as you can see, it's quite similar to the development environment, providing you all the tools in one. And this is how you create apps in Bubble. This is actually an app that I created for one of the conferences where we have a stand, and I imagine that it will be cool to have a game. It's a simple reflex game when user needs to click mouse button when screen changes color, right? So firstly I'm designing the front end, then adding things to the database, and then putting things from the doc on the left side, getting things from the database. So this is how you get things from the database, right? Here you are displaying things on the list. You have all the fields accessible right on with the one click, and you can, of course, in this interface, not only get things from the database, but change the behavior, change the views, change the styles, and so on. So this is how you build the layout of your application. So just in a couple of minutes, you are able to build a layout and connect into the to the backend. And but the real magic happens when you go into the second tab, which is called workflows. So the workflows are the functions of your application, the logic, the backend of your application. And you can attach workflows to many, many elements of the application. So for example, attaching workflows to button, what should happen when you click the button? And here again, you have an access to all the things that are in the app. The database, the functions, the pre-made variables. You can also attach workflows not only to the elements, but for the workflows to be happening in the background, and you are just clicking and choosing, things from the prompt, building the workflows just like it is, right? And you can easily switch between the front end and the back end of your application, changing things on front end, going back to back end, and then using these things that you've changed on the front end in the workflows. So it's super simple and really fast. Building the application from scratch like this, the simple application takes about, 10 or 15 minutes, and you have it ready to go without any setup, server database setup, just clicking preview or publish, and it's ready to go. Yeah, I think I have also the preview here in a moment. Also, the creating things in the database, it's super simple, changing things in the database, and yeah. Yep, and when you click preview, you have the application ready to go. You can test it, clicking play, then screen changes color and gives results that is saved to the database. A question? I will have it in the presentation, but basically Bubble is for free if you want to play around. If you don't want to publish on your own domain, Bubble is for free. The first plan costs $29 US, so $30 a month for that, and it's enough for most of the applications. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a very good question, and the next slide is about it, because this is for the people who have no idea how to code. They just open Bubble and start building, right? But the truth is that if you do know how to code, if you do a little bit of JavaScript, you can extend Bubble with these JavaScript functions. You can run JavaScript on front end as an element of workflows, or in the back end as from server. And using these JavaScript snippets, you can extend Bubble possibilities to anything that you can imagine. Or if you are more advanced and you want to, build some more sophisticated things, there's a plugin editor. And in the plugin editor, you can build plugins for your own, or you can build plugins and sell those plugins in the Bubble plugin store. Because, majority of Bubble users, they don't code. They just look for plugins and they use plugins from the people who wrote these plugins in the Bubble store. So with some JavaScript knowledge, you can achieve nearly anything in Bubble if you are a more experienced developer, right? And the next thing is the connection between apps. So not only Bubble exposes the API automatically, so all the data can be accessible through API, but also you have a powerful API connector. So you can build API connections to other apps from Bubble in this simple connector. You can import calls, or you can just pre-program it. And the beauty of this is that all these things are working together. If you are using this API connector builder, you can use the variables or put the variables from other sides of the app here. For example, this is a connection for the image generator. So this takes an image and prompt from the form from the user and generates the image and gets back to the app. And it's super simple to create such connections. And this API connector is also the part of Bubble app. So in terms of functions and limitations of Bubble, I think that possibilities are endless. I mean, if you can, Bubble has built in a lot of functionalities. You have over 5,000 plugins that extend the functionality of Bubble. And if you don't find any, you can easily add some JavaScript and use it as an extension and just build anything you want. And this is the next part of my presentation about the possibilities, right? Because you may be thinking, and people are thinking, that the no-code is maybe only for MVPs or for some prototypes. But the truth is that people are running real businesses and huge businesses on no-code, and it works pretty well. So just 3 examples from a Bubble case study. First, it's a typical startup. 2 guys with $300 launched this personal finance tracker. And right now they are serving 11 countries, 10,000 institutions, integrations with Bubble. Of course, not the plan for $30, but the more expensive. But it's all on Bubble, right? They started on Bubble and they're scaling on Bubble, and the application looks like this, right? So not like the typical no-code application. In fact, you may never know that you are using the no-code application these days because they are so advanced in terms also building the interface that it looks pretty good, similar to the real apps. And another example from the corporate world. This is an example of Athena. Athena is an enterprise that works with virtual assistants, 1,500 people on staff. And instead of buying an ERP systems or hiring software house to build it, a guy from Athena, he learned how to use Bubble, and in 1 year he built the whole ERP system serving those people and the whole company on staff. And after 1 year, he recruited another Bubble developer and learned him to build things on Bubble. And right now they are running this on the whole company on this app. And also the public institution, this is an example from France. The French public agency, La Metro, is using Bubble application for their employees who are servicing the water pump stations. And this is a mobile app where they are checking where they are and checking the status of the stations, and all is published on the map for the internal purposes. So a lot of possibilities, a lot of different possibilities on the market. And I will also tell you about my own no-code adventure. As I said, I'm building with no-code for 3 years from now. It all started in 2000 when the pandemic happened and we were all closed in home. Suddenly I had a lot of time because I didn't travel a lot. And a friend of mine, he said me about this book called Make, Bootstrapper's Handbook. And after reading this book, I realized that starting new company, even a software company these days, when you are starting, you don't need to hire developers. You don't even need to know how to code. You need an idea, a market validation, and a couple of no-code tools to build really cool stuff. And I started building different tools for me, for friends, for customers, and I ended up with my own startup, also built on no-code, helping no-code developers work with their projects. It's a time tracker with a dashboard and a database that works fully on no-code. And the cost, you were asking about the cost. So total tech stack of my business is Bubble, costs 29, and Zano costs 77. Zano is another no-code tool. I will tell you more in the next part of my presentation. So it's pretty cheap because you don't have to pay anything, just the license for Bubble. And the next part, the scalability, right? So you may say that, okay, but what will happen if I will reach out the platform limits and I won't be able to scale? The truth is that the chance that you will reach the limits of the platforms is near zero, right? Because really big businesses are built on Bubble. This is an example of the biggest Bubble app in 2021, and more likely a company will struggle because lack of users, lack of funding, than not Bubble capabilities. But if you want to extend Bubble capabilities in terms of, for example, backend database, you may use another cool no-code tool, which is called Xano. And Xano is a backend tool, not only for Bubble, it's just a backend, no-code backend. And if you are facing a lot of database complex operations, Bubble is not the right choice for it because it lacks some complexity in data operations. But you can use Xano for that, connecting Xano to Bubble, and it will run as fast as a typical database. Because in fact, Xano is a typical database. It's Postgres with a graphical user interface. So you can easily construct tables, data relations, put data into tables, and so on. Also, adding more complex things like indexes on the database. It's all in the Xano interface. But the real power of Xano is the API. So it allows you to connect to any element through API, and easily you can create API endpoints using the visual editor. So this is how it looks like. You have the editor that has inputs, response, and the function stack, and many other options, right? For example, previewing API, working with teams, adding authentication, and so on. And when we are speaking about the functions that you can add, you have a list of functions that are pre-made by Xano. And these functions are the database request, data manipulation, security, some utility functions, content upload, and so on. And again, you can extend these functions if you do know some JavaScript by Lambda. So adding business logic using JavaScript to Xano is as simple as that. And this is how you program in Xano, right? If you want to set up some new API, you are setting up inputs. You can get those inputs straight from the database reference. And in the function stack, you are just adding functions. If you want to query for database records, you are just choosing the query and choosing the rules of this query. And it's all in the graphical user interface. So in this case, I'm choosing it's my database of timers, so of time entries, where what users were doing in the browser. And for this example, I will go for each loop, for each element, and I will create a different array, getting the URLs from each timer. So I'm just clicking and choosing the things from this function stack. And again, for arrays, I have a list of functions that I can easily program. And here I've got all the variables and all the elements that were previously created, or I can of course create my own. And yeah, and also the functions are here as the filters. So for example, if you are getting some variable, you can easily filter it using pre-programmed functions. And of course, any other things related, for example, with security, generating tokens, password. Here I'm generating the unique ID, and then getting a response. Right, you are choosing the response that should be returned from the API. So this is how API is constructed. It's super simple, and you can of course run and debug this API straight from this interface. As an user, if there's an authentication, and you have an extra settings, including the response caching. You want to add cache to the response, you can easily do it here without the need of any configuration. So again, super simple and fast for the users who would like to try it. And of course, you can also use functions. So you can convert the whole API into function to reuse it in the other parts of the app. But you can also run these functions in the background using crons. So you also have access to crons that are run, for example, every minute, every hour, every day. Yeah, so this is an example API that prepares the data to be displayed on the chart, and was created in just 15 or 20 minutes. Yeah, so if you start with Bubble, to summarize this scaling issue, if you start with Bubble and you reach the limits, for example, the database doesn't allow you to do such thing, you can extend Bubble with Xano, right? Moving the data and API calls to Xano. And in this architecture, Bubble will serve as a front end to your app, and Xano will be the backend. And the beauty of this situation is that if you get bored with Bubble or you want to exchange it, you are just exchanging the front end, and Xano holds all the data and data logic. And you can even build more front ends to the Xano application, to the Xano backend, right? For example, adding mobile application to the web application, so you have two front ends and one backend. And Xano is pretty well connected with many no-code editors, so it's pretty easy to use any of them. But if you want to go deeper and something more advanced, you can try Supabase. And Supabase it's an open source alternative to Firebase, so it can cost zero in terms of cost, and you can self-host it, right? And Supabase, it's nothing. It's also Postgres on steroids. You have access to the database authentication, storage, but also edge functions and vectors for integrating your models. But to use Xano, to use Supabase, you need to be more advanced, because Supabase doesn't have this visual editor for creating functions or for creating queries. So to write queries in Supabase, you need to know how to write these queries. However, this is a great alternative if you would like to connect it as a, for example, backup database to Xano. You can again extend the architecture and attach the Supabase, which may be cheaper, for example, for holding a lot of data. So I'm showing you this for you to understand that virtually there are no limits to scaling up this no-code application. You can add blocks and switch applications if you want. And about the limitations, the real limitations of no-code. Well, firstly, no-code means cloud in 99%. So if you are looking for an on-premise solution, possibly you won't go with no-code. So Bubble is on AWS, Xano is on Google. If you need to self-host your solution, you need to go deeper and look for the no-code solution that can be self-hosted, because Bubble and Xano doesn't allow you to do this. Another thing is GDPR issues. So if you want to be fully GDPR compliant and host your data in Europe, because sometimes there's a regulation that you need to host your data in Europe, you won't go with Bubble, because Bubble doesn't allow you to choose the server regions, right? I mean, you can with enterprise plan, but this enterprise plan starts from 10,000 USD a month, so maybe not a good first start. But there is a solution, because Xano allows you to choose the server regions, even in the cheapest plan. So you can use Xano, and you can use any no-code free frontend or code frontend, remembering to separate those two between each other for the data not to touch the front-end servers. What happens if Bubble of Xano will suddenly shut down? So I think this is the main concern that I'm facing speaking with people, that what if they will shut down? Because you have to remember, if you are building on Bubble, you cannot take this app and host it somewhere, because Bubble app is just one big JSON that runs on Bubble engine. The same is with Xano, right? You can take the data because it's just the Postgres data, but the whole logic is in Xano. So what will happen if they will shut down? They said that they won't. Right? So, yeah. They also said that if they are going to shut down, they will open source the whole technology for the community, right? So So yeah, so this is what they told. I mean, the community, it's not the community of 10 or 100 or not of 1,000 people. It's community of few millions developers all over the world. The other thing is, the Zano and Bubble are not the small startups. They are the mature companies. Last year, Bubble got 100 million US dollar funding. Zano got $20 million funding. So I think that the most probable scenario will be that either they will grow to even bigger or they will be bought by someone big like Microsoft or AWS, right? So I think this is the most probable scenario instead of shutting it down. Because as I said, that there are real businesses, not the startups who are just starting up. But you can choose the no-code platform that you can self-host and that you can export the code, right? So going back to Supabase as a backend and using WeWeb as a frontend. WeWeb is just a no-code frontend alternative. Pretty cool, pretty new, and has a no-code and has a code export, right? So in this configuration, you are somehow safe because you don't, you won't suffer if Supabase or WeWeb will shut down. And the last but not least, the security. And again, the truth is that most of the no-code people, they don't care about the security because they don't know anything about security databases and coding at all, right? The platform should take care of the security. And in most of the cases, in majority of the cases, the platform takes care of the security. I mean, the cross-site scripting, filtering inputs, and so on. But you have to be aware. For example, in Bubble, you have something what is called privacy rules. So you are setting up the rules in the database, basing on the variables, basing on the user roles. You are able to choose what data should be visible for user or not. But if you mess up with privacy rules or you forget to set up these privacy rules, you can expose the whole database as in the source code. Because as I said, Bubble app is one big JSON, and every time you open the Bubble app in browser, it downloads the whole JSON and processes it, most of it on the front end. So if you mess up with the privacy rules, you may end up with something like this. And I think that in the following months or years, we will see a couple of big data leaks from Bubble Apps, because first, it's the most popular platform, and secondly, most of the developers, they just don't care about the privacy. So the future. What's the future of no-code? I am here because I believe that no-code is the future, right? That's obvious. There is a prediction that over 80% of business apps in few years will be created by citizen developers, right? So by business users who don't know how to code, they do know the logic, they do know what they want to achieve, and they just want point and click. Another thing is that AI may become the new UI. I mean that conversation can become the new user interface, right? Not a graphical user interface, but just telling computers what to do. Remember when I told you about Supabase and that you need to know how to write queries? Actually, you don't, because they have something called AI Assistant, and it's trained on the documentation of Supabase, and you just need to tell this assistant what you want to get from database, and he will write queries for you. And this may be the future of creating business apps, especially looking at what's happening with OpenAI. I don't know how many of you have watched the OpenAI Developers Conference this week? 1, 2, okay. You definitely should, because they've announced a lot of things, a lot of cool things, including, of course, the better models, the GPT-4 Turbo and cheaper models. But the real breakthrough is that I think they are building something what may be called a new operating systems. They've opened a way to create your own assistants called GPT, and they will open a store for these assistants and for the people to program these assistants and sell it on the store, just like App Store launched a couple of years ago. And to program these assistants, you don't even need to think about code, because you program these assistants by telling them what to do. And here's an example of a short movie from this conference. So this is an assistant called Puppy Hotline, and it was created for the purpose of the presentation. So a couple of months ago, when we wanted to create our own assistant, we need to program it. We need to use some embedding or fine tuning to provide him with the data information. And 2 days ago, they've announced that you no longer need to do this, right? You just can create your own assistant in ChatGPT interface and publish it. Soon you will be able to publish it in the OpenAI store, right? So yeah, so this may be the future. And what about the future of the no-code builders? What will the future look like? Well, the no-code apps also, they are not stupid. They see that AI is taking over more and more, and they are also working on such tools. For example, Bubble announced 2 or 3 weeks ago in New York City, I was at the Bubble conference, that they will launch something what is called Bubble AI.
Imagine only using a few words to transform a blank canvas into a fully designed page that's clean and modern. Whether you're starting a new app or adding a page to your existing app, Bubble AI generates designs in seconds. So you can focus on building your business logic and connecting everything together. This is only the beginning. Across design, data, and logic, Bubble and AI are a natural partnership. So stay tuned for what's to come, because who knows what big idea you'll think of next. Build it with Bubble.
Yes, stay tuned, because this will be launched next year. But the truth is, the future is now. You can choose from variety of no-code apps that are able to generate code, generate apps or websites. Let's take a look at the Bubble competitor called Software. So to summarize, is no-code eating the software world, or maybe AI is eating all of us and all of the software? I think it's not the right question, because it is probably that many positions held by junior developers will be taken by these generators, right? So if you are looking for, starting your programming career as a junior developer, you should probably be more focused on OpenAI and writing prompts, right? But if you are a mid or senior, and if you are open to new experiences for experimenting, you want to learn new things, I think it's an incredibly exciting time, because with no code and AI and using some of your imagination, you can create really cool stuff with a fraction of time spent for coding. Right? So you can, instead of writing code, you can focus on, imagining cool things and just launching it for users. And I think that coding can become even more exciting with support of all these tools. And if you want to stay with code, you have to remember that all these platforms needs to be coded by someone, right? So there will be still a place for the people who will code the no-code platforms for no-code developers. So Hope my presentation can convince you at least to try some of these tools. I think you should. Here's my contact information and the QR code. If you want to follow up, just leave your email and let's stay in touch. If you would like a copy of this presentation or any materials, I can send you this. If any one of you is from Warsaw or will be in Warsaw on 20th of November in a couple of days, in the evening we are launching no-code drinks, which is an informal meeting for all the people interested in no-code. This will be after the first day of no-code days, the conference about no-code, which will be in Warsaw 20 and 21. And of course, no-code drinks is for free. I mean, drinks won't be for free, maybe a couple of them, but the meeting is for free. So if you want to join, just join. And yeah, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it.